slows traffic or whatever. So if you're new, I say few new faces, we the people are the majority. We have a website called named ourtakeback.com, and we decided to start meeting because so many people were asking, like, what can we do? How can we get involved? We want to be involved. We want to do something. We want to engage. So we started this group to focus on really local issues, based on my experience, and I think most of y'all would probably agree. The national kind of sphere feels out of our control, right? We can't do a lot about it, and it feels that way anyway. I would say the same about the state. However, just a note, I did get a call from someone on the inside today, and they say that in the next 24 hours, we should get some really awesome news about what our state's going to do about the Texas Democrats that left. So, yeah. He wouldn't tell me what, because I'm not really on the inside, but that's the news. So that's good. So anyway, so we decided to really focus on local issues. So whether that be the local school board, like Travis ISD, the local city council, so city of Bee Caves and city of Lakeway, to potentially cultivate candidates, to support candidates, to run candidates, and not just that, but just attend the meetings, be an engaged citizen, have a voice, and now I got it straight. Okay, so there are a lot of opportunities to engage at the city of Lakeway and at the city of Bee Cave if you live in one of those towns. I do not, and some of us don't. And then also to support local businesses. So we want to support conservatives that own businesses. We want to make sure that they're not cancel culture, right? We need to keep an eye on those businesses and make sure that we support them. And anyway, just any opportunity to be engaged. We have people who are engaged in Operation Underground. We have a small private Christian school that's starting in August that we're going to hear about tonight. So there's just any way that we can get involved where we can instill conservative values and protect our freedoms and our republic. So that's this group. We've met once a month in the summer, and then we meet twice a month during the school year. And so once a month in the summer, just because so many people are out. So we love that you're here. We want you to come back. We want you to, get involved, get on the committee. We'll talk about that more later, and find out ways you can engage. So another thing we'll talk about tonight is we have started in the last 4 or 5 months. We've started going to the school board meetings, which are once a month. This month it's Wednesday. So we have 30 or 40 people there, and so our school board leans conservative, and we need to make sure that they know that they're supported and that we have their back if they make a conservative choice, and we need to encourage them to do that. So that's something that we spend a lot of time on. Okay, all that to say. Normally we have flags. Well, if you've come before, sometimes we have flags, sometimes we don't. So, Amy's going to come up here and hold the American flag on her phone.
Nice flagpole.
Yeah. So everybody will stand, and we're going to do a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Tony's still out there. Anybody want to pray? Do an intro prayer? I will do it if not. You want to do it?
No, Suzanne.
Suzanne, okay, so River in the Hills hosts us every time we have a meeting for free. They let us meet here and congregate and speak and talk, and Suzanne is the wife of the pastor here, and so she's going to pray. Yeah.
Father, we thank you for each one that is here. We thank you for all that has brought us to this point. We ask you for wisdom as we seek to be good citizens and citizens of the light and truth. And we just pray for your intervention in this great nation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Awesome. Okay, so until James gets here, one person that is on the agenda, and I'm gonna go ahead and let her go now, since she's here, is Rachel Tiller. She's starting Spicewood Christian Academy out on Highway 71, so I'll let her do the rest.
Yeah, thank you so much. So my name is Rachel Tiller. I'm the superintendent.
Amy Drake, I'm the new director of the school.
Yes, and so I started coming to these meetings actually in the very beginning. And those of you who've been coming from the beginning, you know I've always been big on education. I actually went down to the city to run for the school board. And when I stood up, they said, look, Jen, you were district 1 month too short. And I'm like, okay, well, the Lord has other plans, that's okay. What's next? And I help people run and very active throughout this process. And just, you know, my kids are 7, 4, and 2. And I shook hands with the superintendent and got to know him. I've known a lot of people on the school board. Hey, Carabelle. And so, you know, I know a lot of people in here. And my prayer, you know, since kind of the shutdown of schools is, you know, Lord, why is there not a Christian school in Spicewood? You know, why is there not a Christian school in Lakeway? And you have to drive about 30 minutes. And we all know LTISD has always had a really great reputation. And I have a 2nd grader, and my other one's going to 2nd, and then kinder, and then a 2-year-old. And it really came down to, do I want to put my kids in the public school here for the next 16 years? And I know a lot of you have middle schoolers, and you've already trained them. And, you know, maybe the district a couple years ago or 5 years ago is different than now. But for those of us with little kids, you know, it's pretty scary to say, where are things changing and how quickly things are changing? Do I want to keep my kids in the system for the next 16 years? So I've just been a whole year praying, Lord, what would, you know, the Bible says, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Pray to the Lord of the harvest that he'll send out his laborers into the field. And this past year, I'm like, Lord, my husband and I, you know, we'll start school. I have my background as a Christian school teacher, and then I got into real estate, roundabout way, but ever since middle school, I had a heart to build a Christian school in orphanages in other countries. And a lot of times we want to do missions and work in other pieces, but there's so much work to be done. So our school, we're going to be the first Christian school in Spicewood, the closest Christian school in LTISD. And we open August 18th, and we're K through 8. All our teachers are certified. It's a 1 to 10 teacher-student ratio. We're using curriculum similar to Faith Academy. If any of you are familiar with Faith Academy, our model is going to be very similar to theirs. They're a 2.5-day model, but we'll be a 3.5/4-day model. School is from Monday through Friday from 8:45 a.m. to 3:15. Lots of great electives from sports, sign language, Spanish, STEM classes, art, etc. So
Awesome.
yeah, share about.
Well, God is just amazing because just how he connected us, he orchestrated it. And even tonight, I come here to work. And I did not know you guys were meeting, so here we are. But just a little bit about myself. My name is Amy Drake. I'm a mother of 5, and I have worked 6 years in in disaster relief with Austin Disaster Relief Network. And as a single mom, I have 3 children that are still at home, and I kept going before the Lord because some of the needs of my children were not met. And he always, went to the origin, and he always confirmed, you heard correctly, you're on the right path. And but I just knew he was going to somehow take care of the needs of my children. And the work that I did with Austin Disaster Relief Network was a ministry in helping families who've been affected by disaster get back to a place of recovery. And so I met Rachel, and it was just an easy transition. There was no striving. The ministry that I was in previously was, I poured my life into it pretty much. But yet here I am, and God has, he's the one that's orchestrating this, and he strategically placed me here. So, and my heart is that we raise children to have a biblical worldview, of course, and be able to have healthy discussions and loving discussions about some of the agendas that the enemy is very aggressively pushing against our children. When my children went to public school for a short period last year, by the way, they did go to Faith Academy for a while, and but when they were in public school, they had these agendas that were aggressively being pushed upon them, and they didn't like it. They didn't feel safe. They didn't feel like they could trust their authority. And so one of the things that God's put in my heart is that the children want a safe place, a place that is where they can trust the source. They can trust, the people that are nurturing them, that it's for them. The school is for them. It's not for an agenda. It's not for, anybody else, the board or teachers. It's for them. So anyway, I'm going to help with most of the operations and logistics and help staff the school and just be a servant really in the best way that I can. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
And welcome. So, of course, we're gonna have prayer back in schools. Praise the Lord for that. We are gonna have, pledge, Bible memorization as well. And, the word for our students is equipping. This is a crazy world. And so equipping our students to know God, to love others, and really to know their purpose, their destiny, their plan, and for us to equip them in that. So whatever God has for them, that they'll just feel fully equipped. And so that's something really important to us. So some ways you can get involved is, of course, donations. I have these, I'll pass these out afterwards. I'd love for all of you to grab them. There's lots of places around where they have bulletin boards. If you could grab 2 of them, keep one for yourself, one for the bulletin board. You can scan this for our website. If you could like us on Facebook, share about us, all those things, and then of course donations. And
Volunteer time.
Volunteer time. Jennifer was at the school for hours today. This coming Saturday, we're doing a serve day at 8 a.m. So if you know where Opie's is, it's literally 3 properties to the right of Opie. So it's right between Opie's and Mueller's, right on 71. And so,
Talk to your churches.
yes.
Parents.
Anyone? Okay.
So anybody who wants to talk to
me
Rachel,
afterwards.
please
I want to talk
volunteer.
to churches.
Yes. So this
Thank
is
you.
this sort of thing that I want our group to cultivate is members who want to lead, like go start something, go help somebody, form a team, get together, let's do this together and fight for our freedoms. And so she just stepped out and it's awesome and amazing. So she's a glowing example of what we all need to be. Okay, so James is here. So James White is a state rep out of Tyler. He'll have to tell you how long he's been a rep, but I think it's like 10 years or maybe more. He is running for Texas Ag Commissioner in 2022, and he is on the redistricting committee. He's on the new constitutional committee that was just formed by our speaker. And just a note about him personally is when I was running for office, I had very few politicians reach out to me and offer me advice or help me. They just really don't want to choose a winner because then they alienate who might win. Does that make sense? Like they don't want to pick sides. And James was so kind and so sweet, and he did reach out to me and gave me advice and was gave me a lot of guidance through my campaign. And so I adore him. And anyway, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Wish the legislature could be here. We've done something. We've done something that we just stumbled on something and we did too good. We just did it too good. We got all the Democrat legislators in the House out of Texas. We kind of overshot. We need about 17 or 20 of them. Okay, but we didn't know it could happen, but it has happened. But look, we really need to back, not so much from the partisan thing, but, you know, sort of what my grandpa said, when you ask to do a grown man or a grown woman's job and get a grown man or grown woman's pay, you need to do a grown man's or grown woman's work. Okay, all right, and so, no, the annual salary, $7,200, is not very prodigious, no, it's not. Yes, there's a $220 or $221, per diem, while you're in session, not every day of the year. But the fact of the matter is, whatever happens on the floor, win or lose, as a member of the Texas legislature, I represent, that's Tyler, Texas is Schaefer. I'm
Oh,
Tyler
sorry.
County,
Oh, sorry.
okay, which is between Beaumont and Lufkin, Texas-Louisiana border, and roughly 49. Polk, Tyler, Jasper, Newton, Tyler, Hardin counties. 5 counties in deep East Texas, and every day I'm on that floor. That's enough compensation and pride right there to know that 180,000 of your fellow Texans has asked you to go and stand among 150 other members, okay? And so win or lose, what happens on the floor, they want me on the floor. I represent, I think, on the western edge of the whole South, and they still expect you to fight it down to the end, the bitter end, okay? So that's why we're there, but look, thank y'all so much for having me, this evening. How much time do I have?
How much time do you have?
Pastor son, politician, former school teacher. I mean, we'll get up here, don't give me a mic. Okay, maybe not that long, we'll try to wrap it up real quick. But look, I'm just, it's good to be amongst a group of believers, first of all, and a group of believers that know that their role is not just to come to church, not just to associate with yourself, but to salt the earth. I know we have a whole lot of friction now. We got critical race theory, a lot of weird stuff going on in our public school systems, but we have ceded too much to the left. We have ceded, probably for some good reasons, the motives, right? But we've ceded the public schools, we've ceded academia, we've ceded pop culture. In some places they've even ceded the government, okay? And so we can't just keep giving up ground, okay? Before I was elected to the legislature, I served 7 years as an infantry officer. You just can't keep falling back, right? You keep falling back, okay? And then after that, I was a high school football and basketball coach. You got to defend sometimes, right? So that's one thing that really attracted me about Jennifer Fled, is when I looked at her issue spread, it was quite interesting. I was kind of looking, when you have a lot of time, I haven't had a primary opponent since 2012, haven't had a general election opponent since, and I don't even know if I count this as a general election opponent, because we drubbed her about, 81 to 19, 83 to something. I think I did even better than Trump, but that was 2018, when everybody was supposed to be mad at Trump, and she thought in deep East Texas, everybody was mad at Trump. Since he wasn't on the ballot, they were gonna all take it out on me. And it was like 83, 17, something like that. But anyway, though, I was looking at her, so you don't have an opponent, right? So you spend a lot of time going from site to site, because, in the Army, they always taught us who was probably your best gauge of the newest technology, the newest tactics in the Army. General, no. The so-and-so, no. That private that comes to your unit, right out of basic training. he is training with the latest, he's coming trained with the latest gadgets, the latest know-how, right? So I often look at potential members of the legislature as a gauge of what people are really concerned about, along with those that actually come in, right? So I spend a lot of time just kind of saying, okay, what are they campaigning on over there? So what was interesting about Jennifer is she kind of caught it. You know, Wayne Christian is probably more articulate than I am on this, but over time, this thing about, well, you know, I'm a fiscal conservative, but I'm a social moderate. You know, you've heard of that. You heard of that one, right? Mm-hmm. Over time, or I'm a social moderate. Well, they got another one. They got to flip one to another one. You know, I'm a social conservative, but fiscally, man, I just think we need to just do it all for the people. Just spend all the money. You know, over time, you just eventually get co-opted to being to the left. Okay, so this idea about you can be a social moderate, but a fiscal conservative, over time, it just doesn't work, okay? And so what was interesting about Jennifer's issue mix, of course, she's a strong conservative, she's for limited government, she's for focusing government expenditures to the extent that we need to focus them on something, on core government functions. So, you know, she believes that your money is best in your pockets and not in the pockets of politicians up in Austin or anywhere. And so what was interesting is her issues were on you know, a lot of the social issues. I mean, she dived in. And the idea, and it was really interesting when I was looking at it, because I said, you know, she has a very, very unique issue profile, because I think you delved on the CPS foster child situation, obviously public schools, the curriculum in public schools, and I said, man, this must be a very interesting, conservative, eclectic district, whatever that means, right? But I knew what I was talking about. And so that, and I guess because she's a lawyer, her issue profile, issues she was, you know, kind of running on out there, you know, were, you know, looking at the criminal justice system, but looking, you know, just very interesting. I said, hey, this is extremely interesting. I need to watch this and see how she fares out in the primary, because other smart people that think they're smarter than you, they think they know what you eat, they think they know where you work, they think they know how you drive. I'm talking about the consultants, okay? They think they know everything about you. They know the magazines you read, they think they know everything. And they would tell us those are not the issues that you need to be running in a Republican primary. You know, you need to be on probably the latest hot button issue, just getting everybody all riled up, yada, yada, yada. And you didn't, you came close, or you didn't come close.
I led the primary, lost in the runoff.
Yeah, that situation, we've seen that before. You know, that was about 35–40% of the vote, I thought. Okay, so a good chunk, and I thought, wow, this is sort of like a suburban, ex-urban district, and she's running on these issues. There must be something there. There must be something there. So that's kind of how, and I called her up because I just wanted to listen to her talk about the issues, because this was very fascinating to me. Okay, that's what she, and then of course she's running on pro-gun, pro-life, you know, all of that she is, you know, that sort of thing. So, just to say that, you know, our political system is not built on most days for doing a whole lot of stuff very quick and very fast. If you see if you have an opportunity to read any of the 8,000 bills that I have to read, you should stand up and applaud the founders for that. Okay, actually, no, you don't want a lot of stuff going fast. in the Texas legislature. You don't want a lot of stuff moving fast. Believe me. There are a lot of people, usually when members come and say they want to move something fast, that's when you gotta watch, okay? So, we have to understand that. And that matters if you are the leftists of the liberals or the rightists of the conservatives. Our system is not built for good measure to do a whole lot of stuff real fast, okay? And so, understand that. And to say that is, I know you're frustrated. I went off on someone who called me, that they're not even in my district, that's why I went off on. I went off on someone who called me, and it was just interesting. This guy calls me. He's from like the southwest part of Houston, deep southwest part of Houston. And he's just upset that, you know, I don't know if you saw this interview I did on CNN with, who's that guy? Chris Cuomo, I guess that was one. Okay. And actually, it wasn't bad. That was probably one of the few times he was not.
He was fair.
He was fair. I mean, it was interesting. I may call him back and tell him that. And so he said he wanted to talk to me because I'm just up there in Austin, just doing what the party wants me to do. I'm like, okay. What about the other 60 guys? They're not operating on partisanship, the 60 that are in DC or wherever they are. I heard they're supposed to be going to DC and then to Atlanta and then somewhere else. I don't know what that's about. And he said, y'all need to be focusing on stuff that really matters to me, helping people out. Yeah. You know, and he goes, I'm a veteran. I'm a Vietnam War veteran. You want to do something? I'm going to tell you what you do. Every veteran ought to be exempted from their property taxes. I said, okay. And I said, you do know that this is on the agenda call. And you do know one of the reasons that we cannot pick up that issue and exempt anybody from anything on property taxes is because 60 people that are really doing the party thing are not here. And I told him, I don't need to be, you know, he would say, well, he took an oath in Vietnam and he did this and he did that. I said, well, I didn't do Vietnam. I had 3 uncles here. But I did serve, and I know what an oath means. An oath means you get up and you get after it regardless. So I told him, I said, look, I'm tired of it. There's no voter suppression in the bill. I wish it was, then I would have a reason to go fly to DC. Would you believe that they want a few Republicans to fly to DC to talk to them about the bill? They said, no, we've got a big, beautiful Capitol with air conditioning. We do not need to fly to DC, and why would I want to sit in the room with you now? You got COVID. Why would I want to do that?
Maybe they don't have COVID.
Yeah, well, I kind of think they do. Okay, I kind of think they do. They were doing a lot of weird stuff up there. I'm just watching. Look, to each his own on face mask, but I'm told that even if you're on a private commercial flight, you still need to have a face mask on. They don't have a face mask. They got the 12-pack of half a case of beer. Somebody's getting on with their liquor bottle. And I'm just looking at this. And this is all to save democracy. Okay? And when I think about saving democracy, serious business, I'm thinking about those men that scaled the cliffs in Normandy. Okay? You know, some of the things people say just are just incredible. But let me get back on script here. If I have a script. Let me get back on script here. So I told this guy, I said, I'm frustrated just like you are. And I know the frustration of the conservative grassroots right now. You know, how can 60 people just hold an entire state hostage? Okay? And so let me try to make some sense of this. I think I know how this is going to end. I think we're going to end up getting some, if not all of this stuff done. Here's the irony of it. This is what I told this gentleman. We asked, or I was talking to some news guy, Rudy, whoever he is, with Fox 7. Okay, Rudy somebody. Okay, with Fox 7 here, I guess. Okay. And I said, did y'all know that we being the legislators, we asked for the governor to come send us back? No, let's start back in 2020. How many legislators, Republican, Democrat, were saying, Governor, you need to bring us back? You know, you're doing all this stuff and all these face mask stuff. Republican and Democrats all last year were saying what? Bring us back for a special session. And then when we get into this session, we knew that we weren't going to have at least 2 specials because of redistricting and just the speed that we started at, because, you know, the COVID thing was still kind of tentative, right? So we knew this. So this is no new information, and if there's a reason to be frustrated, that's the frustration, because folks knew we were going to need these special sessions, and they're taking advantage of us. They're taking advantage of you. They're taking advantage of the state. We had a rider in the budget on the House side that said, Governor, you're not going to spend this $15.8 billion. The number changes every day. Some days it's $15.8 billion. Some days it's $17 billion. I don't know how much the feds gave us, but it's billions. I don't know how they got the money, but I just know it's here. I don't know what that means. I don't know if they're printing it. I guess they are. You're loaning it, borrowing it from China. But the money is here. Okay. And we had a rider that said, Governor, you must bring us back to appropriate this money, which I think you want us to. You don't want the governor, and this is not disparaging on chief executive. You don't want the chief executive up there being, appropriator, spender, et al., right? So we asked to come back. Okay? We asked to come back. And now, and I think the Democrat chair, caucus chair tipped his hand, because this is what Rudy, what's his name, at Fox 7 told me, is he just wants an environment where Democrats can take control of the state from Republicans. That's what Rudy, what's his name? You know who he is. I mean, I'm from East Texas. On Fox 7, he said, they're paraphrasing. And he said, what did I think about that? I said, well, that's so incredible. I thought they were up there saving democracy. That's what I think. I'm looking at TV, I'm looking at their what do you call it? We're here to save our U.S. democracy. It sounds great. But really, he said, I want a situation where we can open up and have more people voting. I think we did that last time. We found out how that worked out. And more, we can wrestle this state from the Republicans to Democrats. So these are fascinating points. So I know you're frustrated. I know many of you are saying, some are saying, not many of you, but some, or any of you, some are saying, that I sat down and talked to the gentleman, I just have to let him know, the Democrats leaving, I don't blame that on the governor. I don't blame that on the lieutenant governor. I don't blame that on the speaker. Why? Because that compact you have with your constituents is not with the governor. I don't work for the speaker. I work with the speaker. I mean, he's our leader, but I don't work for him. I work for the 175,000, 180,000 people back in East Texas, in Polk, Tyler, Jasper, and Hardin County. So, I had to tell this guy today, I said, look, I don't want to hear this. Probably was a little rough a little bit. I don't want to hear this about if only the speaker would have did this, only if the governor would have said this, the Democrats would have never. Look, I know they were leaving because I know Democrats. Okay, I work with them. I know they're, I know what they do. Okay, you should know your opponent at all times, right? And so I knew they were going to leave. I knew they were going to leave, and I knew they left a little bit early. Okay, a little bit early or earlier. But we did 23 hours of hearings on that voter bill. On a Saturday morning to Sunday morning. And then he left Monday. Fascinating. This is fascinating stuff. So this is, old coach told me, because this is like a trick play, right? An old coach told me a team that comes out with trick plays, they have weaknesses. Okay, and I'm reading the same stuff. one of my colleagues said that she remembered her grandma saving nickels, cause her grandma was only paid $2 a week. And her grandma would have to save nickels in order to pay for the poll tax. Okay, and I'm like, that's a very despicable thing, the poll tax. It was very despicable. It's just the only thing that I just think that was really Democrats. Disenfranchising blacks, Hispanics, and poor folks. And a lot of white poor folks too. So I don't know how this bill got into poll tax. It's like I told Rudy, whatever his name is, Fox 7. I didn't know that I'm Jim Crow 2.0. White, okay. Calling people Jim Crow 2.0, calling people racist, and this is going to be interesting because Tony Rose, I don't know if you know of Representative Tony Rose. She's a state rep out in Dallas County, I believe, happens to be black state rep. And one of her signature issues over the last few sessions, based on a study that we commissioned as a legislature on postnatal mortality and that sort of thing, was those women that are indigent and on your Medicaid rolls. Usually, I think within a month, we take a month or two, we take them off the Medicaid rolls after pregnancy. And this research report said we should consider extending that to 6 months or a year. Now, here's the thing about it. I mean, we can have the discussions if that's a good policy or not and whatnot. But where were all the Jim Crow 2.0? That's really weird. I mean, it seemed like to me, from 65 to 2021, we would be on Jim Crow 14.4 or something. Okay, but we're 2.0. Okay, all right. Jim Crow. I mean, were we Jim Crow 2.0? Were we racist when we, as the House and the Senate, came together? We didn't give her the full 1 year, but we gave her 6 months. We weren't 2.0 then, Jim Crow 2.0. How about all of the folks and these two nice, great people here, Mr. Balagiano, did I get it right this time? I had to say it a lot, okay? And Ms. Mostert, Ms. Mostert. All of the bills that came to my committee, I chair the House Committee on Homeland Security and Public Safety. All the bills that came to my committee on police reform, banning chokeholds, making sure that officers know that they have a duty to render aid, okay? And also making sure that officers know if another officer or officers are violating someone's constitutional right, they have a responsibility to report it if they can't stop it at least, okay? We passed all of that stuff. And I'm wondering, it was the same racists and the same Jim Crows 2.0. Okay, and now because we have an election bill, now you may ask me to leave and never come back when I tell you some of this stuff, because you think this election bill is going to paper ballots, doing audits. Let me tell you what some of this racist Jim Crow 2.0 election bill does, for good reason. Our Texans that are disabled, senior citizens that do the mail ballot, our proposal, HB3, let's say, they missed a digit on the zip code or something like that, right? And you're down at the central tabulation center trying to make it out. You can't just say, and count that one. No, this is what you have to do. You have to call them up on the phone or email them to come down and cure their ballot. And they can do it up to 2 days, 3 days after election. No, 6 days after election day. This is Jim Crow 2.0. Okay, 6 days. I would not go home and say this. It would run me out of East Texas. 6 days after election day, you can go down and say, no, you better cross that T. All right? I mean, 6 days. Let me tell you also, my staff got me correct. Right now in statute, it's called assisting voters assistance for voters, okay? So let's say that you're blind. I don't know, just you can come up with all the permutations. You can bring someone with you to be your assistant. And those of you that have been election judges, you know about this. Right now, they can help you mark it, right? They can help you mark the ballot. But what if you're sighted? We say that voter assistant can also help you read and mark the ballot. This is fascinating. Jim Crow 2.0. Okay. Let me give you some other Jim Crow 2.0. Expanding the hours of early vote. Okay. Right now, I think the population threshold is 100,000. We dropped it to 55,000, meaning that more counties will have to use these times between 6 a.m. I think and 10 p.m. One Democrat member of the House Committee, House Select Committee on Constitutional Rights and Remedies had a committee amendment to take that 10 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. Now, we may have a discussion about that if they ever come back. But my grandpa always told me, anything that kind of happens after 9 p.m. at night, you know where I'm going with that, right? Boy, get your butt back at home. Anything going on after 9 to sun up ain't going good, okay? But we say you got to have at least 9 hours. You have to offer at least 9 hours within 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. Okay? And so we actually have increased the hours. This is Jim Crow 2.0. Okay, so this is very fast. Now, yes, we are proposing that when you go sign up for a mail ballot application, you have to show some type of ID, and we're gonna write your ID number down or something. And we have voter ID in the state, right? So that's what that's about. Otherwise, I could just go down and say, hey, give me a ballot. I'm Tony. Your last name, Tony last name. I'm Tony. I live at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I actually had people call me from my district. It wasn't a whole lot of people. Somebody's already voted for me. Oh, I say, you're crazy. Go on back down. No, Rep, somebody has already voted for me. Okay. And so we do believe, contrary to Vice President Harris, because sometimes I forget, I don't know if it's Kamala, whatever. Okay, Vice President Harris, I do believe people in rural Texas can take a photocopy of their ID. Okay, all right, I do believe. Now, we may need some photocopy machines, but I think we can do that, okay? So, that's a snapshot of, and I had some, I've got this, when you become a legislator, make sure you get some very, very young people in your office, because they're doing all these little cute, beautiful graphics with my name on them, and it kind of, I can show it to you later, but I can get even more detail about some of this Jim Crow 2.0. I'm still looking for it, okay? And I wanted to find it. I wanted to find it so I can say, Jim Crow 2.0. Let's negotiate. Come on, come back. We'll negotiate. We'll get back. We can. So I know you're frustrated, but this is what teams would do when we would look. They're always doing trick plays, sneak plays, because they're trying to not get exposed. They're trying to hide their weaknesses, and they know that they're not better than you. So right now, our Democrat colleagues know that what we're doing is right, what we're doing is good, and it's good for the best of Texas. And they asked to come back, just like I asked to come back. And the governor does have the discretion to listen to you and add other things on the call. Some people wanted this thing, and I wanted it on the call, valuing our young ladies and young girls that are in sports. Okay, my best coaching assignment was coaching girls soccer, and I love coaching girls because they do exactly what you tell them to do. Exactly what they tell you. And sometimes you're like, oh, you didn't have to do exactly the way you did it. With young men, half my size, playing basketball, you tell them, go down there, son, and I want you to practice your free throws. Go over here and work with some other kids. I look 2 minutes down, he's still practicing his free throws. I look, turn back around, within 5 minutes, he's half my size and he's trying to dunk the basketball. Okay. With young women, they will stay there. They need to be staying out, you gotta go home, okay? All right, okay. So the self-worth, the opportunities that these sporting events offer them, we don't want a situation where we have these other models, other situations where people that are men or boys, and then they're playing, girls, and then bouncing back. Our University of Scholastic League already has a rule for that. We want to codify that in the law. That whatever your birth certificate says, that's what you play. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. That's been in the rules for decades. And I got people saying I'm depriving someone else of doing it. I said, I'm a coach. I would come in, play basketball. Okay, son, young lady, where is your birth certificate? Here, coach. I look, okay, go down there. These things were not very difficult back in the day. And now they've become like huge litigation pieces. So situations like that, situations that our children are not being abused with all types of weird surgeries, okay? Situations involved with helping our foster kids have the type of environments and facilities where they can start to heal and get the therapy that they deserve. Property tax relief. All of this is on the governor's call. Okay, so, we had a meeting. We don't know how that looks. I think that the Speaker of the House, I can only talk for the House, I think he has a model right now. I serve on the House Select Committee on constitutional rights and remedies, and this is supposed to be like the catch-all committee where a lot of stuff comes. Elections, valuing young ladies' sports, anything dealing with the Constitution is supposed to come to our committee. So I think we'll have a situation where these all of these priorities that the governor has on his agenda, that you called his office and said, put that on. I know what you're doing. Thank you. They will not be going to any committees chaired by Democrats where when they come back, they can continue to do their games. I think there will be discussions. I don't know how this looks. We do have the rules. As I tell people back home, just because someone else violates the Constitution to try to get as a means to their end doesn't mean that I need to do that. Okay, so I think there will be discussions about certain chairs that violated their oath, certain chairs that tried to hold the state hostage. I believe there will be discussions on what we do about their chairmanship or chairwomanship.
Yeah.
Okay, that will be a discussion. Now, how that looks under our current rules, I don't know. We can't change our rules in the middle of a session. We can do that. And there's some other techniques that we can do. And I think the one I just said is, we'll just neuter you. If you are the Democratic chair of criminal jurisprudence, don't waste your time. Don't get bent out of shape. Don't do a whole lot of reading. The bail reform bill will not come to your committee. Maybe it'll come to the Constitutional Rights and Remedies Committee. Okay, so when you render yourself useless, when you take yourself off the field of play or the field of combat, let's just help you stay on the sideline. Okay, we'll just help you stay on the sideline. So we'll work. I don't know how that's going to look at the end. Okay, I think the first order of business is you got to get a quorum. Okay, so it's 83 of us. We got to get at least 17 to 20. You know, you got to count to 100, and we get them back. And I think going forward, you know, we talk about we don't want to be like DC. Well, we've got a group of legislators that went to DC. Just think about that. They went to DC to ask Schumer, Pelosi, Harris, Biden, please pass a bill that violates Article 1, Section 4, which says the legislatures shall determine the manner of choosing their representatives. And you go to Article 2, where it talks about the presidency. It's the legislatures that choose the manner and how they choose their electors who ultimately vote for the president. It's Article 6 of the Constitution, the Texas Constitution, called suffrage, that says the Texas legislature, the Texas legislature, the Texas legislature, not Harris County, not Travis County. What county are we in?
Travis.
Okay, you're still in Travis. Okay. I thought I was driving out. It started looking very, very good. I was like, wow, this is beautiful. Okay. Not Travis County, not Burnett County, not because I'm in charge, not because it's COVID and this is happening. It says the legislature. Okay, so we can't have HR 1. That's the thing up in DC, where, you know, they're going to just take over mail balloting, uniform, state to state. You can do it or you can't do it. They're going to do it. Okay, power grab. Okay, so they went up there to cede their power. They holding you hostage to go to DC to cede their power to Congress. And look, I got to make great Congressman Babbitt, but they're having problems just getting names on post offices. I mean, now they're going to be doing mail ballot applications and telling people whatever. They got enough on their plate. The state reps and the state senators throughout Texas and the country need to be running their elections, not kicking everything to the federal government. Real briefly, I have to say it because I see them. Probably some of you did it as well. I thought I saw. Did you testify ever? Sir, your name? No. You okay. But there were 2 people that testified. They're in here. They should get an award. If I miss someone else, don't be mad at me. But I know these 2, Bogino and Monster, on every bill dealing with your firearms rights. They were there. 2 p.m., 2 a.m. Weekend, weekday. All right. And some people said, well, James, you know that one long hearing we did George Floyd Act. I looked at it as a constitutional day. I mean, things you expect us to be listening and talking about, right? Okay, all right. So we did George Floyd Act. We did firearms. So we did all that, and it was about 17 hours. And folks were very upset. I can't believe you made these grassroots people wait after this. And well, why did you do this bill so late and so early in the morning? Well, look, we're only supposed to be up here for 140 days. Okay, I know the calendar. I know how the calendar works, the legislative calendar. And if you don't put the priorities of the grassroots, of the citizens like you, at the front. See, I'm an old grassroots guy myself. I know what it means to be sitting around on May the 15th and that pro-life bill is still languishing in committee, or that Farms bill just ran out of time. Just ran out of time. James, you know about the legislature. We were almost there.
It was worth it. I'd do it again.
Yes, you would.
Yes.
And I said, what if we would have had those hearings that week on this election bill? What if we would have had those hearings that week like that on your pro-life legislation? What if we would have had those hearings like that on your bail reform? Why do we need bail reform? Because we have some jurisdictions in the state, I don't know if this Travis County got a feeling this, that are doing turnstile justice. What is turnstile justice? You go out and commit a violent felony, hit somebody over the head with a pistol, take their purse, shoot them. You go down to the Harris County Courthouse, they give you a $100 personal bond and you back out. And guess what you do? History is the best predictor of future, right? You go do it again. Turnstile, you go do it again. That won't work. Yeah, you go do it again. Okay. So bail reform is to stop that turnstile justice. So what if that week, because I can count days and weeks. I'm just an old football coach, but I can do that. And so if you don't have those hearings early and long, then the other side will take advantage of you and leave town. Okay, so if there is a criticism of the Republican legislators, and maybe particularly the House, is managing that calendar. Constitution carry has been a priority of Republican conservative grassroots for sessions. Speaker calls me up. I thought I was enjoying two previous sessions. I was chair of the House Committee on Corrections, which is that committee has oversight on everything post-conviction, parole, probation, incarceration, rehabilitation of felons, all the way to the death penalty. I've actually been to several death penalty scenarios. We can talk about that later today. So I loved it because it was, even with Democrats on that committee, we would disagree on what to do with the felons, but none of us disagreed that they should be in. Okay, all right, yeah, he's a bad dude, but I want to give him what's the pillow man guy? Lindell. I want to give him one of Lindell pillows. I'm like, no. Give him some bricks, okay? But yeah, he's staying in prison. Okay, good, fine. Okay, and so I had a great time in that committee. Did a lot of great stuff. And so what happened? Speaker calls me up the morning he's about to release committee chairs. I thought I had made it. I saw his number come up. I looked at it. I let it ring for about 3 times. And I know the speaker. He and I are good friends. His district is to the south of me in Beaumont. So I said, okay, let me just go ahead and get it. You know, we have a thing in the Army. Bad news doesn't get better with time. It's not like wine or cheese. It doesn't get better with time or age. So I said, let me go and get it now. What's up, man? He said, I need you to do something. Oh my God. So what's that, bro? I need to move you over to Homeland Security and Public Safety. I said, look, man, I don't need to be a chair. I don't need to do any of this. No one elected me to go chair a committee. They elected me to come up here and fight for the rights and that type of stuff. So we talked about it. And I told the speaker, I said, now look, you know what I represent. And it's one thing if I just file a constitutional carry bill and some guy from El Paso is the committee chair and doesn't hear the bill, right? And I go back home and guy from El Paso, I tried. You know, we just what? Ran out of time. Okay. I said, you know what I represent? I represent East Texas. And even though my people are already doing constitutional carry, yeah, even though my people are already doing constitutional carry, okay, I can't be the chair of the committee and this don't get out. And he said, look, I would like to see it come out on the floor. I said, okay. You won't have a problem with that, okay? So, if you remember, we had, so we got committees mid-February, I believe. We had to do what we call, informational hearings, organizational meetings, where all the organizations come in and say, I'm the so-and-so organization, we're just here to help you, this is what we need, blah, 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 blah. Hey, I'm the DPS, and blah, 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 blah. Homeland Security and Public Safety has jurisdiction over Texas law enforcement, DPS, Texas Department of Emergency Management, emergency communications, Texas Crime Stoppers, and emergency, disaster, planning, preparation, execution, yada, yada, yada. That's all what we do. And because of that, we're, in the criminal justice system, so where I was oversighting and corrections, post-conviction, my committee now moves a little further up the chain and arrests. Okay, because it also says, my wife, she just told us when I hear say this, my committee is responsible for also the oversight of the apprehension of all criminals. All criminals. I said, okay. It's all criminals. Okay, she said, well, why not just criminals? No, all of them. Okay, not just criminals. So, saying that, that puts us getting most of the firearms legislation. I think we had a great session on your Second Amendment, U.S. constitutional right, your Section 23, Article 1, that's your Texas Bill of Rights on firearms. And we passed a version, not the version, but we passed a version of the constitutional carry. Okay, and so I'm the point of those priorities. And so we had that situation, we got the hearings, we started hearings in the middle of February, organizational hearings, and then what happened? Boom, we had the freeze. Okay, that was a 2-week because we were frozen. And then the legislature, it took us a week to kind of thaw out and find out, well, what do we need to do? Okay, so for those 2 weeks, really nothing happened in the legislature other than trying to explain why you were freezing in your house, okay? And so that left me with the week that we met, and then the next week, which was going into Easter week, Good Friday. I could not push that to Good Friday. That, couldn't push it to that, okay? And knowing the politics, all the George Floyd stuff, I had to get it up front too, right? So we had to get the hearing done. Then we came back that next week and we voted those bills out, constitutional carry out. One, my vice chair Bowers, I think she's in DC too, Democrat, she said, now, surely you're not gonna vote this constitutional carry out on the week of Good Friday. I said, no, you can't do this on Good Friday, it's supposed to be about peace. Yeah, no, that's why we're gonna vote it out. Okay. You can get a lot of peace, okay? So we had to do it at that time. Because here's something else about your rules in the House. And I had to work with DPS on this. If a bill has a fiscal note and it comes out of committee, technically we can't hear it until May the 5th. So I had to work to get the fiscal note off. I got the fiscal note off, okay, so we could get that bill to the floor, okay, yes. So, just wrapping up here, look, it's so great to be with you.
Okay, hold on, if you're wrapping up, I want you to explain what Texas Ag.
Yeah, I'm about to do that, I'm about to do
Good,
that, I'm about to do
sorry.
that. But I have offered myself to run in the primary, in the Republican primary for the Texas Commissioner of Agriculture. And your ag department, Texas Department of Agriculture, is extremely important. It is the only statewide position that has regulation over an entire, one person oversight, elected official over an entire industry. And it is the premier industry in this state. I love the oil and gas, it is too, but ag is also. everyone in here is in the oil and gas business. And everyone in here is in the agriculture business, okay? And so, looking at agriculture in Texas, it is under siege. If you think about the character of Texas, what makes us Texans is because of agriculture. Those men that fought at Goliad, fought at the Alamo, fought on the battlefields of San Jacinto, and even the battlefields of the American Revolution, those were ranchers and farmers fighting for their freedom, okay? And your ranchers and farmers right now are under siege. They're under siege at the southern border. As chair of the Homeland Security and Public Safety, ranchers and farmers have been in my office. The transnational criminal gangs are ransacking. I mean, it's horrible. Violently violating their property rights, destroying their farms and ranches. Here on Texas soil, about a month and a half ago, you had Russian gangsters, ransomware, shut down meat processing on Texas soil. So we need an ag commissioner that can get the right people around the table, okay, to look at these issues on securing our food supply, protecting our Texas agriculture, promoting Texas agriculture. You guys don't believe this, but we've got some folks that really believes in egg. Starts at Brook Street. Okay, all right. We have to promote Texas agriculture. Your Texas agriculture is the most efficient and productive economic system in the world. Our farmers and ranchers, our producers, are under siege by horrible trade deals. They're under siege. They're 59, average age is 59 years old, which means that we've got to get into these schools. We've got to, get our kids working outside again, sweating, okay? Somebody's got to do that, okay? And then we need to make sure that we're doing all of this in an honest, transparent, and ethical way. Your ag department is not for sale. It belongs to you. It's a $115 billion industry. That's the industry. Quiz. One question quiz. I'm a school teacher by trade. Where does most of the money, the revenue that Texas Department of Agriculture uses, where does most of this revenue come from? Federal government. 93% of it comes from federal government, and that's basically all the food nutrition programs. So that's why we're in this race, because we love Texas. I'm a small cattle operation. I have a small beef cattle operation myself back home. My family has been involved in agriculture for some time. My grandmother, my grandfather, and we just think we need a more strategic, contextual approach to agriculture, not something episodic. So look, I think I've talked enough. I mean, to the extent that you want me to stay and answer questions with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's I don't want to step in and pick this person, pick that person, and lose your vote. So who's running? Okay. So I'll start from the right. Okay. You always want me to start from the right. Okay. And sweep across. Yes, sir.
I have a small question, sir. So
Yes.
what do we do instead of knowing what's happening? So I identify myself as a grassroots. So what do we do? And we know what's happened. That's no one question. So I myself, not only concerned the local, Morris and I are living in walking distance from here. So not only concerned the local, but also the nationwide, the fragile situation. I call it a nationwide fragile situation. We know what's happened. So that's another two questions. So we know election fraud. So we know, everyone clearly see it, but there's nothing we can do. So as grassroots, what can we do?
Well, I think there's a lot you can do. Let me tell you where you can start. We've got to get back. Look, I've been a precinct chair. I've been that election judge at the primary. and/or the election judge or the assistant judge at the, general election. We're gonna have to get the grassroots back excited again in being precinct chairs, election judges, in the primary elections and the general election, because that's our first defense, right? You honest people running the election. A precinct chair is the most important position in politics. Let me say that again. A precinct chair is the most important person in politics. For me to get elected, I have to get elected in the primary. Who's gonna probably run that primary? Those precinct chairs as election judges in those primaries. That party platform and those party priorities, you know how those items percolate from the precinct convention, probably run by that election judge / precinct chair. Okay, so that's the first line of defense, okay? All right, look, we can have all the great laws in the world, we do. Beautiful, I've got beautiful big thick books of laws on my shelf, you know, beautiful. But if we don't have good people enforcing them as election judges.
The election fraud, so.
Well, I'm
we
getting
see
there,
it-
that's the first line of defense. Good people like yourself
At the local level.
at the local level, okay? Yes,
Yeah, then we see it, but if this one cannot be fixed, this kind of problem cannot fix, then next year, next 4 years, then we'll still have the same thing.
okay, but,
We can clearly see.
but that's what the rep is saying. So we got the election reform bill we're passing, right? Okay, now, we passed that, I'm gonna still need good people being election clerks. That's what I'm saying. Poll watchers. Okay, so it's one thing, I see. So it's one thing to have all these rules and allowing poll watchers to do their job.
Yes.
But if we don't have good people to go do it, it's just,
We can do
okay, so I think it's that, okay?
it, yeah.
Because you're right. I was with Trump a few weeks ago, and he says, if we don't fix the elections, we don't fix the border, we don't have a country. So it's good laws and good people enforcing the laws after we pass them.
Do you support Representative Toth's bill, House Bill 241?
I'm on
Or
as a
forensic
co-op.
audit.
I'm on as a joint author. Yes. Let me tell you about this bill. This bill calls for a forensic audit in Texas, not in Arizona, not in Georgia, in Texas. And let me tell you, and I still need to go into science. Let me tell you how I got to my point. That's the most important thing. Because if someone is saying that potentially, computer-wise, software, that election was, and look, even if it was a very, 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 very minor breach, okay, that happened in Arizona, even if it's very, very minor, okay, to say that wouldn't happen in Texas, I mean, they just skip over Texas and go to Arizona. And just because I got the right answer, well, I got elected, so I don't need to. No, we need to know, so if there was a breach, we can patch it.
Right.
Okay, so I just need to sign my name, but he did put me down, I will be a joint author.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay. Put it up. I think this is.
That's the big thing, because the electronic voting fraud, the algorithms that are running, that are putting, I don't know if you've seen the work of Dr. Douglas Frank, but
Yes.
in Tarrant County, Dallas County, whatever, 0.997, 0.995 correlation coefficients.
Mm.
Just, it is absolutely blatant that there were
And it's just-
machine manipulations going on.
So look, what's the worst case scenario? Well, what's the best case scenario? Hey, rep, everything's okay. We looked at this, check, okay, fine. Okay, all right. We do forensic audits, I think, of your school districts. They've done some at some of my school districts back home, and the money still comes up missing. We do it at school districts, we do it with banks. This is the most important thing that government does, the elections. So let's take a look. Yes. Yes.
Thank you for your service to the country in the Army and to the state of Texas. You mentioned the Russian hackers on the cattle
Beef processing.
processing. How, after hearing Russia, Russia, Russia for 4 years, it was, oh, BS. I'm skeptical that it was really Russia. Are
Okay.
you comfortable that it was proven
Well,
that there was
the-
Russian hackers?
Well, to the extent that, and I know this is probably another discussion for another day, that certain law enforcement agencies, certain national law enforcement agencies like the FBI, and even the actual processors themselves, said it was, ransomware hackers out of Russia. But again, this is what the rep would say. A commissioner of agriculture has no computer forensic, resources or anything like that. But what I think a commissioner could do is bring the people to the table that have the expertise, the beef processing people, the technology people, the consumers, okay? Talk about it. And to the extent that there is a solution, I would have to go to the legislature, right? There's very few things that a commissioner can just kick the door down and do it. You wouldn't want that anyway. You would want legislative impact. So I think the key is we know there was a breach that shut that industry down. It should not have happened. We need to get the right people around the table. We've got to protect our food supply.
Yeah.
Whether it's ransomware from Russia or bad trade deals from China. Yes.
In the legislature or as a commissioner, is there any plan to stop China from buying these huge farms or
Yes.
Bill Gates or this?
Yeah. There was a piece of legislation, I don't know who's your state senator out this way. It is Don, okay. But Representative Tan Parker and Senator, the doctor, well, they got a lot of doctors in the Senate. No, we're talking, Donna Campbell, right. They passed a bill on foreign entities buying critical infrastructure assets, okay? And the idea, usually the feds are supposed to catch that. They've got an agency in the Department of Treasury that's supposed to catch that, but apparently they approved that solar panel thing way out in West Texas. So we do have a bill that has become law. I was at the signing ceremony to attempt to close the door on that, okay? And not make it profitable, and just not have that happen. So yes, we are watching that, we're looking at that, and you just gave me an idea as a commissioner, it may be necessary to do some type of inventory. I mean, I think we do have some meat processing plants that are owned by a Brazilian company, okay, out of Brazil. I guess they're good people, okay, I guess, okay. So we just need to know this, okay? We need to know who's owning these assets in our state. Okay, anything over here before I sweep back? Okay, yes, Ms. Monster.
I know we have the bill for, children, girls and boys sport thing.
Yes.
The question that people have is addressing the college, because I did call up,
Does the bill cover?
NCAA.
And they couldn't, they said they thought it was just like middle school and high school, but
Yeah.
not college.
There's one that just does middle school, high school.
Right.
And then there's one that does middle school, high school, college.
Okay.
Okay. And I think I'm on both of them.
Okay.
I think Swanson she said she had the co-author sheet sitting in her desk. So I got people calling me. Get them out of the desk and take them to the clerk's office. I think there's a Senate bill, there are 2 Senate bills and such, and there are 2 House bills. And I think Representative Swanson on the House side. Now, saying that, I think on the college, that includes colleges, I think what's happened is we say, our public colleges, private colleges, but our public colleges, we're just saying, hey, well, it'll be part of the NCAA, and you just can't be getting into this thing where people are picking and choosing their gender and competing. So, again, if my grandmother she's not alive anymore, But if she was,
Crazy town.
if she was hearing that I'm talking about this, and we gotta pass a bill, she would just look at me really crazy. People in Newton County, that's my district, they look at me really crazy when I'm talking about this. This doesn't seem like it should be happening. So yes, those bills are out there, we're on. Okay, I'm coming back this way, I'm coming back this way. I'm coming back to you, bro, yes.
So I will probably better for a phone call that I've got a question. If you end up in the agricultural department as that commissioner, our food supply right now worldwide is in the hands of two companies, Bayer and Monsanto.
The seeds, yes.
Neither of them are looking out for our best interests.
I had a discussion with a wheat, barley, a grain farmer up in northeast Texas, and he does cotton too. He says a sack of cottonseed costs $600.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and you're kind of hostage, right? I mean, because you got to have the best seed with the best yield. All this connects to, you know, your pay and you know, your profits and all of that, and it's pretty much a take it. He said, yeah, I can go get an inferior seed, okay, but you're gonna pay for it on the back end when you don't have the yield. So,
Or the quality of cotton.
or the quality of cotton, because they have different, you know, strands and stuff like that. So, again, I think there's some room.
Carrots,
We want on the
tomatoes,
radar.
or, I
Yes,
mean, there's
yes,
the stuff that we're putting in our bodies.
bodies, right,
That's what I'm worried about.
right. So, yes, you know, my cell number is 281-658-0540, 281-658-0540. So you can call 281-658-0540 if you just got some more information about this. Jim?
Yes.
Okay, Jim. Okay, any ladies? Yes.
Hi, is it true that the federal government is paying farmers to destroy their crops?
Okay, I had this discussion with this gentleman also. No. Now,
They're paying the truckers not to deliver.
well, no, what they do have is an insurance program, okay, where, you know, if they don't get the yield that they think they're supposed to get, or they pull themselves out of production, but you know, they have to pay a premium, so it's not nothing that's necessarily free. But you know, I talked with this farmer for a while. He has thousands of acres up in northeast Texas, okay, grain, cotton, all of that, and look, he says those programs are long gone, and our farmers and ranchers do not want an insurance check. They want to be in their tractors, they want to plant, they want to cultivate, and they want to reap. They don't want an insurance check. But when you've got, you know, these seed companies jamming them up, when you got these trade deals with China and all these other countries jamming them, it is tough. And then at the same time, this is something that we're going to have to really look at. You know, one of the roles of the commissioner is to find and promote tax policy that encourages ag production. You still have to walk across the street and talk to the legislature, right? It's nothing you can just implement as the ag commissioner yourself. But in many instances, the land that these farmers are cultivating on is 20 to 30,000 an acre. And what they're making per acre ain't 20, 30,000 an acre. And so at some point in time, I know we all like development and that sort of thing, right? But at some point in time, if we don't have a tax structure that encourages these men and women to stay in production, we're just gonna have more sprawl, okay? And I do not want a situation where Texas loses its independence in food security. Okay. I'm coming this way, okay, I'm coming to you, right here on the edge.
So, quick, I have a couple questions.
Your name is?
Sabrina.
Sabrina, okay.
First, we know that the left plays by a totally different set of rules. I feel like there's a double standard. And the frustrating thing, I think, for us is that you know, we look at these global, Fauci and Gates and all these corrupt, you know, Soros, and there's no accountability. They never, there's no consequence. And so it's like they can kind of get away with murder. And so that gets super frustrating. Is there gonna be, if this voting fraud comes out to be fraud, what is gonna be the consequence? Or is there gonna be any consequence? Or is that gonna be another thing that they just get away with? And then second question is there any way we can ever secede from the
I think if they take over our elections, you're gonna have that discussion. Let me take your first one, and I can take the second one too, okay? Cause I think I signed on to that deal. Okay. Well, people just say they wanna vote. Here we go again. We wanted people to vote. And we, you know, well, no, we don't wanna vote on that, you know, just want to vote for Democrats. Just vote on us, okay? Let me take your first question. Fraud is a criminal act, okay? And so it would take law enforcement eventually to pick the case up. It would take a DA thinking that he or she has the goods, take it to a grand jury. You gotta get an indictment, you gotta get a conviction, okay? You know, I think a lot of people don't know this. I was listening to one show the other day on the radio, and they had the Attorney General of Arizona, and he said, look, the Senate, the state Senate in Arizona, they have their audit going, and they're supposed to package that audit up and send it to the Attorney General. And he didn't sound like he was wanting to game the system or nothing. He said, look, he's also running for U.S. Senator, so, you know, I'm waiting for the report from the state Senate of Arizona. And when I get that report, my office will go through it and then we'll go from there. So I always knew back in November that if there was fraud, okay, that is a criminal offense. And I know of fraud investigations going on now in the state of Texas. It takes a long time to prove those. This is, I just gotta say this. So that morning, you know, we get 23 hours of hearings on the election bill, right? So we're on Sunday morning. A week ago, 7 o'clock in the morning. And the Democrats had 7 or 8 amendments. None of them passed. I was the only Republican to vote for one of the Democratic amendments. And this amendment said, look, we're gonna do this bill. Why don't we have the Texas Secretary of State, which is Republican appointed, do a study, you know, as the bill is implemented, talking about the elections bill. And, you know, so we can know if there are any significant disparate effects on demographic groups and so forth. And I said, yeah, I'm for that. Let me tell you why I'm for it. Because I've talked to the AG's office about their fraud investigations. Most of these investigations stem from very local elections where 10, 12, 20, 25 votes matter. School board, like out in my district. City council, water board, okay. And here's another thing, you know, because there was a thought that, after this bill passes, we're just going to be convicting black people, or we're just going to be convicting these people. Well, let me tell you how it works now. AG's office tells me for them to really have a good fraud case, they've got to have a whistleblower. And so most of these cases, again, are local races. And because we have, in some instances, still in our country, a lot of segregated housing housing patterns. When this black guy loses, he knows that black guy stole the race, he's gonna rat him out. This Hispanic guy knows that Hispanic guy stole 20 votes and he lost by 19 votes, he's calling Attorney General. This guy is Republican and he lost the primary on a county commissioner's race. He don't like being done like this because this guy always cheats. Even when he was in high school, he runs to the attorney. I already know what the answer is going to be because I'm looking at it. The case in Longview, it was one black Democrat ratted out another black Democrat for cheating, stealing. South Texas, One Hispanic guy just got tired of being cheated. He went and ratted the other guy. I know what the answer is going to be, okay? So I said, yeah, let's do that then. Okay, so you got to have a whistleblower. And, I mean, you don't wanna lose these cases, okay? You don't wanna lose them, okay? So I always knew from November that we really wouldn't know anything until maybe late this year, okay? And that's just how it goes, okay? Because when you got a criminal case. Now, the state rep would say this: I knew that there was gonna be litigation, it was gonna be a mess about this time last year. Because I just know, just from being a coach, whenever you start changing the rules in the middle of the game, whoever loses, they got their lawyers. The Democrats had their lawyers ready to go. They had their lawyers ready to go. And I just think, because people were changing rules. Let me just be straight up with you, okay? And then I gotta go to this guy here, okay? So the governor added a week to early vote, right? Okay. And look, some things you just learn over time, all right? And so the thought was, and this is why we need to learn from this scenario. I mean, look, COVID-19 was such a different, novel play. I mean, we're gonna be studying this for years. So the governor added a week of early vote. And we probably loosened up some mail ballot opportunities. And the thought was, there was one group of voters that wanted to mail ballot vote, and there was another group of voters that wanted to vote on site, in person, so you add an extra week. And it was all about, well, this works good for my side, but not about the Constitution and the law. So I just knew it was gonna be a big mess, because we changed. Now, if we would have brought the legislature up here, hopefully they wouldn't have ran off. Okay, but we had the legislature. If we would have brought and discussed it, everybody knows the rules. Nobody, you could come and not protest, we'll protest, but testify. But I knew across the country with governors, county judges, mayors, changing rules, and I knew it was gonna be a big mess, and we're paying for it. Yes, sir. Yes.
So, it seems to me that a man has a right to defend his property.
I hope so.
Yet, we cannot defend our own border. Then we have a governor, or say state legislator, and then a bunch of kings and queens, local judges all around that, with a stroke of a pen, say that you're not essential. They say that you gotta wear a muzzle in your face, and that your kids have to wear a muzzle in your face. And then you have talks of vaccinations and all that.
Coming to your door, knocking on your door,
Exactly.
just come back to you.
But the number one issue is that we have a border that's open for everybody to come in. So I can take your freedom and say that you're not essential as an American, but I can let
Just
hundreds
old
of
lady.
thousands of people come in.
It's old lady.
Yes, and whatever happened to, I don't think Texas has to ask permission to defend Texas from enemies, foreign or domestic, right? And why doesn't Texas have a strict policy as if you cross the border, particularly, obviously not women and children, but if you're trafficking kids and women, if you're trafficking drugs, if you're a cartel member, and we know who they are, why not just shoot to kill?
Okay. We'll look at that, but there are very horrible things going on at the border. This is real serious. I've got a probably more nuanced approach. Okay? And this is why, I had early in the session, I think back in February, had a long talk with Congressman Henry Quayle. And, well, he's not very happy about how the Biden administration is handling this because his district is on the border. All of what you eventually see, they see it first, okay? And he told me, he said, look, when you tell folks, just don't come now. Well, just so they time it right, so they come when you want them to come, they start coming, okay? And so this is, and I was thinking about this because it was such a beautiful drive, I could just think about so much stuff. Where's the international border? No, someone said it. Where in the Rio Grande? Right in the middle. Okay? Now think about that. And a few weeks ago, Trump was down in South Texas and I was there, the governor was there. I got stopped twice by the Border Patrol. 60 miles from the border.
Yeah. Yeah.
My question was, look, I'm just all infantry soldier, right? Why aren't you closer to the border?
Right.
Okay, all right. And there's a thought that if Border Patrol just lined up at the border with bright orange vests, they probably wouldn't cross. Okay, so by the time they get halfway through the border, they're in. By the time they touch that northern bank, it's on. And by the time, in some parts along the border, they hit the Trump wall, they're 5-6 miles in.
So how about putting landmines?
Well, you get into some other issues.
How about you send a National Guard?
Yeah, right.
Can't he?
Well, he has, but I'm gonna bring him in and just say, I'm thinking of a novel approach. We'll bring the governor's people in. Why don't we try this? We kind of know the hot places where they want to cross, right? What if we just put people there? Just put them there. Stand them there. Okay? Yeah, but.
There has to be consequences. You
Yeah.
can't just stand
Now,
there.
well, you got to, well, look, the thought is, because I talked to a guy about this, the thought is, if you're standing there, they'll go somewhere else. Look, they're looking for the easiest way.
Right.
Okay, if you've got marijuana, fentanyl on your back, all that, right? You're not looking to have a discussion. You're looking to get the product over there. So you stand there, right? Here's another thing. I think we've got, and then we got to do things in depth. Okay. When I was talking to Congressman Cuellar, and he was going on and on, he says, the cartels, it's $50, $60, $70 million a month. And if you're coming from El Salvador, it's $9,000. He said, whoa, Congressman. In El Salvador, if you got $9,000, I mean, you're like living like a king. Where do they get $9,000 from? He said, oh, no. They get it from family and friends here, and they radio it, telegram it, wire it. So when I have this little chat, and I've been thinking about this for several weeks, several months now, got to find a way to drive the money. They make vastly more money on the trafficking and smuggling of humans. The drugs are bad, yes. Okay, the guns are bad, yes. But that's the meat of it. And I don't know.
But they're not killed. That's the problem.
Yeah, right.
You can't catch someone who is a rapist or is a murderer or traffics kids. You gotta go Old Testament. Once you catch him and you have proof, first of all, they're not American citizens, so they don't deserve a trial.
So now you're going to the next thing is, if this is for the governor and the attorney general to work out, is to what extent can the state declare these cartels as terrorist organizations? Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're sending the Texas Rangers over to blow them up, okay? But what it does mean is that we can get into their financial system. Look, they've got great lawyers. Yeah, they've got banks. They got all of that, okay? So it gives us more tools to be more sophisticated. So I think it's all of that.
The legislature can
agree.
do that though, right? Isn't that something they can,
I
declare them terrorists?
That hasn't been done.
No, the feds have there's an actual law, well, the president can say, this is a terrorist organization, and then there's and while he does that, there's a study that goes on that Congress has to approve or disapprove it. But by making that declaration, you can get into their financial business. There's just some other things that you can do. It doesn't necessarily mean you send the Navy SEALs down, maybe, but it doesn't mean you send the Navy SEALs down. But they're just things, like we do with Iran. You're a terrorist state, we can freeze your money, you know,
But we're already doing that. The problem-
Not with the cartels.
No. What
But
they're
what
doing
about
is doing
the
is
old
they're doing this against
1-2-1?
American people. So if you're a conservative, if you voted for Trump, if you went on January sixth to the DC rally, you will be treated just like any of those other terror organizations by, okay, we're
Worse.
gonna show up with feds, you know, at your door, we're gonna put you in a solitary confinement. Oh, by the way, we're gonna make sure that you're censored. Go after your business, go after your family, and it's happening all over the country, so I know that you understand that, but that's exactly what the country is doing to us. So we are being treated like terrorists. And then you have people from outside the country.
That are terrorists.
Yeah, Sinaloa cartel, they're just like ISIS.
Essentially, that are being treated essentially.
Right, so let me move back here real quick. Yes, ma'am.
I had a question going back to election integrity. The lawsuits that you talked about with the audits at the local, state, or even at the federal level, I understand that they have to have a whistleblower and able to convict. So let's say they get to that point and they're able to show at whatever level that there were enough fraudulent votes to swing the election. Then what? Does that person then get reinstated? And I mean, I'm not necessarily talking about Trump, but.
I don't think there's a methodology to reinstate. Okay, because you're in a criminal scenario, right? So the criminal scenario is only gonna deal with the criminal situation. So no, I don't think there's a mechanism to reinstate, but I do think obviously there's a criminal mechanism to put people in jail that defrauded the vote. But I haven't seen any scenario.
I'm just curious how that, I mean, they say, well, I'm really sorry, your candidate who you all voted for, now that your vote, my constitutional right has been diluted, and the person I voted for really did win, what's the
Now, I would tell you this, because we've seen this happen, where an election was frauded, and it was like the guy called me up and told me about it. It's like a water board. It was in North Texas. It was a clean hit. They knew it was fraud. You know, obviously they put the people in jail, and then they redid the election. Okay, so that's another thing. If let's say after the convictions and whatnot, you're 3 years down the road, do you have, by that time, it seems like people run for president like every day, right? You start a president. So I think that would be a scenario. If it's a smaller local jurisdiction, they may be able to redo the election. So those instances do happen. Yes.
So my concern, from what you were saying about our local elections, we need to be present, we need to oversee everything. What I'm seeing them do is so brazen that what is the point of us, okay, let's just say we do everything you're saying we do, we're just right there, every step of the way, right down to Travis County, where the same woman's been there for, since the 80s, and that, all the elections keep going the wrong way, and then, so we're all over it, we report it, we do all these things, and then there's this long process of proving it, and if there's no whistleblower, if there's no, so.
Well, you be a whistleblower.
Okay, so I am, but you're saying that basically somewhere down the road after the, Ken Paxton gets his eyes on it and eventually does something about it, what if it's, 2030 by the time, I don't understand where it's justice.
Yeah, they don't need to go that long. They don't need to go that long.
But what if it's, even if okay, let's say it takes 5 years,
No, they don't take 5 years. those cases it don't take that long, okay? Cause if it went 5 years, you just probably say, maybe, I just don't have the goods to close it.
Okay, yeah, but I'm saying if we watch it with our own eyes, which we kind of watched it with our own eyes. You know, but we didn't, physically see what happened when the TVs went dark and everything, and not everybody saw the mailbags getting pulled out, but my concern is, we could probably be there the whole time, and they're still gonna do what they do. And then we have this huge thing where we have to prove it, and it's gonna take all the time. In the meantime, more elections are going to happen, so I guess I feel really, frustrated and hopeless that we'll actually get a fair election going forward. Because they have everything in place now to do what they do.
Yeah, we just have to get a paper ballot.
Did you have something, my friend?
Yes, sir, I got
I was hoping you didn't leave.
No, I didn't leave.
Yeah,
So,
Travis
I
County
can't
is.
leave. So, a couple things. About the, so as ag commissioner, you deal with water rights?
What the code says in ag code is, the commissioner, the commissioner of legislature should, do studies, should develop policy that facilitates good use of our water resources in order to promote agriculture. So, but I don't, there's really no mechanism where the ag commissioner swoops in and takes your water. You don't want that.
Well, my point is that, so like Lake Travis is our water supply for our area. It's also supplies Lake Austin, which is a constant level lake for the electricity plant. Problem with that is that the water goes down to Colorado and is sold to the rice farmers down south. Okay, so in drought sessions, we have no water.
No water.
Hardly any. I mean, it's low, right? So here's my question. As the commissioner, are you able then to recommend to the state of Texas to build desalination plants on the border of South Texas to pump water in from the Gulf instead of taking our drinking water?
Okay, I would say this, the ag commissioner is in a unique position to bring the people to the table to look at these other, options, like desal. No, it has been discussed.
And how come is there a hang up with that?
Well, it's who's gonna do it, who's gonna pay for it, it's gonna be private, public, it's all of that.
Well, they build wind farms.
Yeah.
Right? They don't work.
Right. So I would say this, water is the oil of the day, right?
Yeah, because without water, we can't grow our crops.
That's right. And so, again, I think the ag commissioner is in an ideal position where you can bring the experts, you can bring the stakeholders together, come up with those solutions or alternatives. It would probably take us walking over to the legislature and saying, hey guys, here's the report, we're standing by it, you guys have the hearings, we're gonna be in the hearings, let's get something done. So yes, those opportunities do exist for a commissioner to sit down and have those discussions.
Awesome. Second thing and to Izzy's point about the border, the reason why Texas's hands are tied is because the Supreme Court had a ruling in Arizona that said they cannot secure their borders because it's a federal border.
The rep disagrees with that to a certain extent. Let me tell you why. We may have to do some tweaks to our criminal trespass laws.
That's right. And that's how he's going around it.
Right.
I think that's right.
But if it doesn't matter who trespasses, I don't want you there, it's criminal trespass.
Well,
okay. So I think that's an option. Okay. We do have human trafficking statutes.
That's right.
Okay. So I think we have a lot of tools. When I just really have just sat down and thought about this, look, this ain't new. We're gonna probably have a hearing, if we can ever get people back, we will, on this. And the one thing I told my committee clerk is, they exist. Go find me a professor or two that can talk about the history of Texas on the southern border. This is really nothing new. We've always had bad dudes on the border, violating, killing people. We've had that. Pancho Villa, you know, we can go on and on and on. And we dealt with it, okay? Even if it meant, punitive expeditions south of the border. So that's the first thing we have to look at. This is not new, trouble on the southern border. So I am becoming, I've heard of that, that's what we usually say, you know, we need the federal government to be more active, you know, we got the Supreme Court case. But I think what the people want to hear the governor and the legislator say is, let's do it, and just take us to court.
Here's what I want the
And
governor.
we'll just go back to court.
Here's what I want the governor to do. I want the governor to call me and say, Dr. Tony, you're a Texan, right? You're a military vet. Guess what? I need you on the border with your gun with another 200 million or 200,000 Texans. And we're gonna stand in the gap, like you just said, and we're gonna take it back. Because the Declaration of Independence on the second paragraph says we have the right to do that.
So I think we have the National Guard, which belongs to us. It can be federalized at times. I would just say, let's push our perimeter back, up, okay? Because again, I've stopped twice by the border patrol. Well, you know, the rep thinks you would probably need 2 or 3 divisions. I mean, but you probably wouldn't need that much, right? Because some of it is cliffs and rocks and that sort of stuff, and that in of itself, you could monitor that aerial, you know, satellite, you know, something like that, right? But we know where they mostly come in. And I think you got to get to a point where you just stand somebody there. Okay, right. Okay, I gotta get to these nice ladies here. Yes.
What happened to Abbott finishing up the wall?
Okay.
When he talked to
Trump
recently down at the border, did he say that they were gonna work on the wall?
And let me let you in on some inside ball game. When we were in that meeting with Trump, and the media was there, so this is no new information, okay? It's not secret information. The President said, you've got to do something now. If you don't fix your elections, you don't fix your border, you don't have a country.
Right.
Your elections are a mess, your borders are a mess, okay? And he also said, and you gotta do something now, because the wall will take years, but you got to do something now. So let me tell you what's happening now at the border. DPS is working with landowners along the border on putting up fencing. Now, is it the type of fencing, is it the type of structure that we heard the president talk about? No, it isn't. In some instances, it's strengthened cyclone type fencing with that roll. Okay, but look, that's an effort, okay? Because those of us, I don't know what branch you serve in, brother.
I was in special ops in the Air Force and special forces in the American Army.
Okay, so we know obstacles, you have to still secure the obstacle. If you just leave the obstacle there and go run down the street, they can just go under it, go through it, go over, right? So generally we would say obstacles are to slow, deter, redirect, channel, okay? So to the extent that you have something there, it's gonna slow them down. It's gonna allow us to economize our forces, right? Okay, where we needed 15 guys standing there, maybe we only need 3 or 4, and we can take those 10 and 11 and say, hey, go down here, okay? So that's what DPS is working with, from landowner to landowner, and some landowners are really appreciative of that. And we're doing that, and it's just like a natural disaster. You sent a STAR report, those of you that are if there are any local officials in here, you know, you sent a STAR report up to the Texas Department of Emergency Management, and somehow it gets down to DPS, and somehow DPS goes out there and starts putting up that fencing, right? So I would tell you the type of obstacle that the president has often talked about for over a year, more than years. It'll take a long time, because you have some what do you call it, landowners down there that are fighting it in court, you know, so to the extent that, yes, we are putting something there, but I think we need to go just another step, okay? Because you got to understand when you telling people to, you know, the rules of engagement, right? It gets kind of frustrating when I talk to Texans and they see hundreds of people just walking across. Okay, and DPS just, as we would say as a basketball coach, when you're not defending, they just O-land the people in, you know, and then we turn them over the border patrol. Well, we know what the answer's gonna be on that, right? Okay, they'll be walking down the street. So yes, that's what's happening. I gotta get these ladies here, yes.
So I understand, like hearing everything and like the problem's been identified. And yesterday I was sitting at my son's basketball game and my friend is telling me she was in Dripping Springs and they live in a nice community. And on 4th of July, a woman came out and approached her 15-year-old and 19-year-old with a baby in their arms and said, "I'm from Guatemala and I don't know where I'm from." And so they ran in, got the mom, the parents came out, called the police got the woman and the baby and said, you know, "Can we talk to you?" And she's like, "Can you put me in your car?" Like, she was so scared, so she wanted to tell the police officers in their car. And so they identified that there's a white couple around 50s living in the home with a African-American couple around 30s. So there's 4 adults living there and there's 1 baby, and they've seen multiple women go in there and come out. So the problem has been identified, but it's been 2 weeks and they're not getting help.
Stash houses right there in the neighborhood.
Right, and so they know who, it's the
What
house.
are they? Stash.
We call it
Yeah,
stash
the house
houses.
is owned by Mark King from East Side Cider. Like, so they've done their research, this couple that lives on the street, but they moved from Steiner Ranch out to Dripping Springs for a better school district, and now they're living by a stash house. And like, I mean, I'm just a mom at a basketball game going, what? And so like, I mean, we hear about it on the news. Laura Logan did a wonderful documentary about the border, like all these people
It's in your neighborhood.
Yes, and it's like, at what point do people that can do something? Because I'm a mom going, a woman is here from Guatemala and does not know where she is, holding a baby. Like, what? Like, I'm just like blown away.
You've just bought that baby. With your tax dollars.
Yeah.
You just bought it. Yes. So it's I'm gonna tell you, it's very
How come
pernicious.
Biden isn't being impeached right now? That's my
Biden.
I
Oh, boy.
mean, he's not
That's not
protecting
Biden.
us
Yes.
as Americans.
Yes.
He is violating number 1 rule of his oath. And
Yes, yes.
Why isn't articles being written up? That's
Yes.
my
Well, I think they're
They
being
probably
written
won't
up.
remember his oath.
I'm sure they're being written up. It's just a Democrat-controlled Congress, and they probably won't get a hearing.
I feel like the overriding, feeling in the room is like, we're all frustrated with delayed justice.
Yeah.
Can I get this lady, because
Yes.
I've been delaying her, and I don't wanna be.
Yes.
So going back to the press conferences in Donna, it was conveyed that perhaps there wasn't so much left to be done on the wall. And this evening, I'm hearing maybe that was not so
Oh, gosh.
accurate.
It's a lot that needs to be, you talk about the wall in the context of President Trump.
Yes.
Oh, it's a lot that needs to be done. Much of what he did was strengthen existing wall. There was not really a lot of new wall, new footage per se. And you got to understand, I mean, even before he took an oath, he was under siege by the elites in DC. He had, court case after court case, and he really didn't get the cash to do it until 2019. Well, by that time, these are political pros in DC. If they can't stop you, they know just about how long to delay you, and you're out of there. Okay, so that's why I say, when I was driving up here, I said, man, I just know these are going to be, especially if they're Jennifer Flex people. There are some frustrated men and women. Okay, you see the bad stuff going, you just like, it's not like it has to be like the movies, right? Just go fix it, right? And I just think we gotta think outside of the box, okay? Yes.
So I work with a group that does child sex trafficking rescue.
Yes.
In that I interact with former special forces, Texas Rangers, DPS, former in those positions that have been involved in interdiction. They don't have any money, there's no funding, local police departments don't know what to do, they don't know how to identify it, they don't know how to pursue it or prosecute it, and the state doesn't have any funds, so I'm just asking.
Well, we're gonna pay for it either way, right? Okay, so that's what I'm saying. When I'm gonna talk, like if it's not today, it'll be before the end of the week. You know, what does it look like? Because we got to get out of this paradigm. Well, look, we can probably, pull them aside and arrest if they've got some weed on them, or they got a little bottle of fentanyl, or it's one guy bringing over a whole bunch of women and we think it's human trafficking. I'm wondering, how do you even know that if they're coming across? How would you even know that? You would have to assume that they're all breaking the law. They're all breaking the law, right? I just think that we would say you got to move the defense up some, and I'm just wondering, just something as simple as, instead of the DPS trooper cruisers being 15, 20 miles along the interstate, what happened if they were, every 300 yards or so, you'll see a trooper car. Well, why not just push all that to the front? Okay, and you can't spread it too thin. So what I'm thinking what would happen is they would shift to another part, and then you just continue to move. And with the governor implementing this interstate compact that's been in force for years, where if one state calls upon another state to help with some type of defense or civil disturbance, they will send their law enforcement. So my thing is, I think we wait for them to come so much into the interior, it's out of control. Like I said, if I'm being stopped 60 miles in, and they look in my car, are you carrying anyone illegal, sir, that you're not supposed to have in your truck? This would be just usual. Okay. You drive down there.
But it's also allowing the feds to control the whole.
The tempo, right. And so they stop me and they say, are you carrying anyone in your car that's not supposed to be you're carrying? Well, what do you think? I said, well, no. Okay. Or you're a U.S. citizen? Yes. This is what they ask you. Yeah, they say, okay, sir, thank you. Have a great day. Yep. That's 60 miles in. I mean, man, you got to be doing, if you're the border patrol, border patrol, like.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but
just to
the Port of Houston brings in thousands and thousands of human traffic.
Yes.
Through that port.
Yep.
Every month. You've got I-10.
And drugs.
I-10. The trucks pull over at night, cars pull in there, girls and boys and children and everything get out and they service the trucks. And there's nobody doing anything about it.
And at some point in time, at some point in time, we're gonna have to raise our hands as Americans and say, to the extent that some of this, whatever extent you wanna pick, is that, if we're in church, is that we have an insatiable demand for intoxicants and sex. Where there's a demand, okay, and so we're gonna have to do, the country's gonna have to do a lot of soul searching too.
No, there's two sides. They said you can do all the
Can't be legislated, that's what they like, soul
To
searching.
get rid of pornography, for example.
Well, you can have
We
those
know that
statutes.
most of the
Human traffickers
women that are in there, they're not there really because they wanna be there, right?
True.
I mean, something started, but then they're forced to be in there. So can that be legislated, first of all, for that to be outlawed?
would run into some First Amendment, you can have community decency laws, yes, right. But again, our system was never supposed to rely on a whole bunch of, it was thought that we were good people.
You can't legislate morality.
Correct.
Well, I think you, I mean, you can't, we can legislate people shooting people, but I know what you're saying. But at some point, you know, so we're gonna have to look at this, we'll have to look at ourselves as a society, that the reason some of these things are happening is because we have, let me get this guy right here.
I was just going back to the border thing. The kids are going down there, they haul them in. The illegals come across with money in their pockets.
Mhm.
I mean, they're paying, you know, the coyotes like $10,000. The drivers that pick them up from basically the border that drive them into like San Antonio get paid $2,000 a head. You're not gonna stop it.
Mhm. Well, we can slow it down, and we can significantly slow it down, if we have the will and want to.
Well, we have.
I mean, when your guys can, when our guys can
Okay.
only ask, do you have somebody illegal in your vehicle?
That's what they asked me.
The kids look at them and say no.
Well, yeah, I said no, and I was for real.
And
Okay.
I'm saying this from experience too. I did not expect my child to have done something like that. So I'm just telling you, it's right here. They recruit kids straight out of Lake Travis High School or anything else, and instead of them being at their buddies on a Friday night, they're driving to the border, making a couple of grand, able to come back, buy themselves some new shoes and other stuff around the house.
And he's getting to a concern, okay, so I'm really concerned about. So every week, DPS sends me their dashboard, and it could be 90 to 100 pages. People that they're arresting, the drugs they're confiscating, the numbers of people that they're rounding up is just astounding. And at the end of this dashboard report, they do situation in Mexico. Now I'm telling you, the local, state governments in northern Mexico, they have just been, they've cut their deal with the cartels. The cartels have become ingrained into their civil society.
They've done that for years.
Well, it's
done.
Yeah, and so, you know, a concern that I have is, you gotta get a handle on this, because you don't want that to get.
How did Trump stop it? How did he stop it before it?
Well, I think his remain in Mexico worked. And look, it's just like being a school teacher. The first day, if you're showing up passing out cookies and ice cream on the first day of class, you're gonna have a problem by day 183. Okay, they're just gonna be really running over you. I mean, be on top of it. Okay, but I think his tone, his aggressiveness, discouraged a lot.
No, he made a deal with the Mexican.
Yeah, the remain in Mexico, but remember that was lifted and undermined by the Biden administration. Okay, so I mean, he kind of figured it out. Okay, it was a patchwork of stuff. Okay.
And also, he had the EO 1221 to freeze assets of anybody involved, bankers or in trafficking.
Yes, and so he was more aggressive, and I wanted to think your tone. I mean, he really thought that he was elected to secure that border, and he woke up every morning trying something. Okay, so I think that's why. Okay, but look, I'm not a Pollyannish guy. I think there's a reason why some people are fighting. Maybe they would benefit from it. Yes.
There we go.
So I'm hearing your suggestion about bringing it closer to the border and actually making it border protection, right?
Yeah.
So my first question is there any type of legislation being
proposed or written up at the moment that will, bring that into effect? And then the other question would be, can our governor have that tone and that aggression on a state level?
I think he can, and he should. And I don't really think there's a bill I need to file to say, instead of asking me a question 60 miles inland, just go. I think the governor has some money. How can you get this on the border? Okay, how can you just push it? How can you work with border? If it was, the common sense would be is maybe DPS and the local sheriffs need to be 60 miles in, right? But if you're the border patrol, dude, I need you at the border.
So how do we motivate that into action?
The governor needs to have some discussions
With
the
us?
feds, with the feds.
Oh.
And if he can't get the answer out of the feds, I think he moves people to the border. If the border patrol is gonna be 60 miles inland, okay?
Yeah.
And let me tell you what also got this spurred with me. I was talking with the deputy director of DPS. And he said, and we were at a briefing, and he said, you know, obviously Border Patrol, their funding scheme probably doesn't merit them. I mean, I guess they gotta have a lot of people, they gotta get a lot of people there. In other words, if they moved to the border and stopped it, it would be a question of, well,
Now, the bureaucracy is gonna shrink.
yeah, you don't, yeah, okay. So they're in an apprehension mentality. The Border Patrol is in an apprehension mentality when they need to be more of a prevention mentality.
Right.
Okay, and so it's just that, okay, all right, and to the extent that it's politics involved, I think our friends down on the southern border, there's a reason why there was this wild swing in a good way toward Trump in 2020 is because they're communities. I mean, it's like your neighborhood, and there are hundreds of people just walking through your neighborhood all day long. It's crazy. Yes.
So back to we the people.
We the people.
All of us, there's thousands of us, there's 75 million of us to be exact, that
75 million?
Yes,
We the
in the
people.
country, we the people.
Okay,
That
yes.
have been called insurrectionists, white supremacists, racists. How do we get you all as representatives in this state, in this country, to back us up and say, they are not insurrectionists?
Oh, we do that. We do
I
that.
know you do, but I
Yeah.
feel like there's so many people that won't come to these meetings. I mean, people are scared.
Yeah,
Their
yeah,
businesses
yeah.
are scared.
And you got the videos, and we hope, we'll smile. All of that. But look, some of the name calling, some of that type of stuff, we know why they're doing it.
But it's scaring a lot of people.
Yes,
And it's,
yeah,
it
right.
took us months to get this group going, and we've been motivated, and we're, jacked up and ready to go, but we need support.
Yeah.
I don't feel like the Republicans are necessarily backing us up as much as they ought to be.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Until election time.
Yeah.
They want donations.
Yeah, right. So, look, it only takes a few, right? And I think you've got what I would suggest is, continue collaborating, banding together with the Freedom Caucus. It's only, 14, 15 of us? Okay, but 14, 15 people can do a lot in a 150 member if they stay united, okay? I think that, okay. Obviously, y'all come to the Capitol and you testify. That matters. I mean, members see that, okay? And let me tell y'all this. I know the frustration. This doesn't get passed. That got killed.
Stuck in calendars.
run out of time. You know, just rep, you know, we just rep, you know, ma'am, if we just had another day. But, you know, that Democrat over in El Paso, you've heard it, right? But give yourself a lot of credit because of your letters, your emails, I get them, to every member, phone calls, you stop a lot of stuff. Okay, you stop a lot of stuff. And in this business, stopping stuff is a premium. Okay, so you may not have people coming to your side in the public, but there are people that hear you. They don't want to get on the opposite side of you because they know your vote. You come to something like this for 3 hours, these people vote a lot. Hopefully only once, but a lot.
So along those lines, our representative doesn't represent us.
Okay, well, a lot of people feel like that, right?
She's a DC.
Vicky Goodwin.
Oh, not Vicky. She's on our committee, right? Yes. It does.
Do our phone calls, does a dozen phone calls to her saying, don't you go there?
But check this out. You got your state senator, right?
Yes.
Don Buckingham.
Don.
You got her. Okay. And look, all the members like on my committee, we get your letters, we hear your testimony. And when your name comes up on the committee, your name comes up. Where you're from, your county, and your state rep. Okay? And so we're smirking like, well, Vicky know that everybody in her district ain't, don't want to look at it, Yeah, we're smirking and we're looking. Okay, and guess who else is looking at that? She looks at it too. She sees the same screen on that committee dial. She knows it says, because you got to put in your address.
Okay, so she sees us talk to you.
Oh, yes. When you come testify in front of my committee, I get it. Okay? John Balgiano, Travis County, or wherever. Right, yeah. And it shows your state rep, his state rep. Okay? So, I got to leave you with that. You don't believe it, but those letters, members, especially during session on these bills, they got some staffer in there from some intern from UT, going through, taking, we got straw warrants, and saying, but also think about the stuff that doesn't get through. And it's because you are wearing out those phones, you're wearing out that email, you're wearing out those committee rooms, okay? So, they look at that thing and they see all these people show up and they're against it.
You can't get any media coverage. I mean,
Okay.
anybody will talk about
Yeah, well sometimes that's a good thing, okay? Yeah, what's up, bro?
I thank you again for your support of the audit effort, and I'd just like to reiterate the threat that electronic voter fraud constitutes. That when we all are voting on ES&S machines, at the top of my school board election, it said, I got the names there that I like, but there's a barcode at the bottom. I don't know what the barcode says. I have no way of counting it. Presumably, when it gets counted, it's a machine that's counting it. I have no idea what's going on in the system that does that. I do know that all of these electronic systems that we use have the same DNA. It comes from the old default systems, and they count votes on a fractional basis. They count a total of votes and assign them to different entities. It's just a mechanism for fraud. There's so much insecurity from an electronic standpoint, and we know that. The voters know that. I don't see it getting addressed in any of the election integrity stuff that comes into your committee or anybody in the Senate. I applaud the righteous efforts that you're making to clean up the rolls and everything else, but as long as there's the threat of connectivity and attacks from the likes of Cloudflare, is that right? Was it CrowdStrike. Those were sovereign level intrusions that went on for years you don't think that they've got their talons into all of our systems?
Yeah, we gotta go to paper ballot.
We gotta get back to.
That's what I was about to
and-
bring up. Out in my district, my 5 county clerks, now, this is usually how we do it. You know, my seniors, they can come in and they're just, hey, I just want paper all the way through. And the clerk will give them a paper ballot in my district all the way through, right? Folks like me, you know, who wanna do the, you know, you bubble in and, you can go on the screen and tap it, okay? But it prints something out.
Right.
Okay, and then I can look at it, okay, and then I put it in the box, right? All those votes were counted before 10. We didn't have any drama, no arguing, nobody getting kicked out.
So we all need to move these Texas.
You may need to. And that's what I'm saying, I'm back here.
Those, you may have great confidence in the security of your systems, and I hope that it's well placed.
Well, 'cause it's
But you have what you have is I had the same thing. I voted for Jen Stevens at the top of my list. There was her name, but there's a barcode at the bottom. The barcode is what gets read. The systems that read it's electronic attacks. Seeing her name is of great comfort, but right now I don't have the capability. I'd love to. I'm trying to engineer the opportunity to get back and just count all 8,000 ballots in the Eames district race and see whether she really won or not. I don't know, but a machine said that.
I'm just saying, like back home, there is a paper,
right?
And so.
Do I? I don't even.
We should have a way to go back and check that our vote was counted.
And what I'm saying, with that paper ballot back home, it wasn't until 2 o'clock that we got, it was literally, everybody was finished and back home.
Yeah.
Just counting through paper in what? Like I said, by 10 o'clock.
Okay, I'm sorry, so you're advocating counting the names on ballots, and that's what you do at home, and that's, I think we
Yeah, so
should do the same
if you
thing.
vote electronically,
like to
those
see that.
electronic votes have to match up with the paper ballot that
Yes,
is
we got it.
created when
Because there
you.
was so much hacking going on. I mean, I believe Mike Lindell, and I believe that there's cyber, experts that have.
Well, if they can shut down the meat processing plant, surely they can shut down a voting place, right? We don't need to be Pollyannish about this, right?
Right.
Yeah, right. Yes, sir. Tony.
Okay, last question, guys.
There's a lot of passion around this election integrity issue. I happen to be on the board of directors for the Election Integrity Project for Hayes County. We're just forming a nonprofit. Well, we've already filed for the DDA and everything. We're organizing right now. We're looking into all these issues. And I think it's a mistake to look directly, this is no insult to you, but to politicians to solve this. You have to work locally. Work with your county boards. The counties run the elections. There are state laws, but the counties are given leeway to do a lot of things, to get waivers for not doing serialized ballot numbers and various other things. So anyone interested in that, passionate about this, come and see me. I'm working in Hayes County. I know this is Travis here. We're just getting ramped up.
And Tony, that's one thing, and another thing that we've probably, I'm talking about the legislature, that we've probably missed in these integrity security things is, we need to look at the discretion we're giving the Secretary of States. And it's not saying that the Secretary of State is bad or anything, but the discretion that we give that office to give local entities, suspensions of rules that y'all have asked us to put in place. Also, I don't know, again, I know out my way, and it's in code. They're supposed to run test audits on the machines. It's supposed to be done publicly. And ideally, I would say, like, when they run those in my county, they will bring in the Republican Party county chair of whatever county, Democrat Party chair, and they'll run that test audit on all those machines. And that is supposed to be recorded in the paper. And y'all probably have real big
It's
paper.
not good enough.
It's not good.
I'm gonna say that's one thing.
I'm a computer expert.
But I'm
as
saying
well.
that's one
It's not
thing.
good enough.
That's one thing. But what I'm saying,
Paper ballots,
but I'm saying that's one thing.
local precinct control.
But the deal is, yeah, that's right. But I'm dealing with everything that's being used. You know, whatever's being used, there's supposed to be a audit a couple weeks before the election. Usually they do it going into early vote, or whatever they're using, you know, the little touch pads, and it spits the stuff out, and people are supposed to come. Now, I have 5 or 6 local weekly papers, so I can track it easier. Probably tough tracking it in Travis County with Austin.
She's a criminal.
Okay, but in the Tyler County Booster, Lynette, my county clerk, she'll post that. Test audit on machines on October 10th. But you're right, a lot of this stuff happens and is occurring at the local level.
You're right not to trust the barcode on, I mean, anything that's not human readable.
Well, you shouldn't
on-
trust
on
anything,
paper.
right?
Human readable on paper,
You should,
chain of custody, local precinct.
you shouldn't be
control.
trusting anything, okay? You should be checking, and then,
Ever play a video game?
yeah.
You got little Easter eggs in places. All you have to do is like do certain things and everything changes.
And then you should have the redundancy, okay, in place where you can check and verify. Redundancy. Yes, real quick.
So the forensic audit, I read on top, statement that it's gonna be done by November
2021.
2021. So, I wish it could be sooner than that, but it truly needs, are y'all going to Arizona? People going to Arizona from Texas, I've heard a while back, Texas had a delegation.
Well, I don't know if the
So, we need to do it like they're doing, I mean, it needs to be cyber security experts, it needs to be people that, I mean, that,
they know what they're doing.
right, because I heard there was like watermark paper, you have to like make sure, and all this ultraviolet light, all, you know, all this kind of stuff.
2021?
Yeah,
needs to-
November 20, you said by November 20.
They're gonna do a forensic, I know,
Okay.
I wish it was sooner
Well, I
than
think he
that.
says it must start. I don't know
Yeah.
if start or finish.
I'm sorry, the audit that I'm praising him for supporting is not going to start, not going to wrap up until the end of November, sorry, until November
Start.
2021.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Start.
Starts already. What about the 2020 election?
I know, cause we really.
Why don't we
want
audit this?
Yeah, hey, thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It is late.
Great job.
I appreciate everybody coming. We had a few things on the agenda. They will wait until, next month. If you're not getting my weekly email, check your spam or reach out to me, tonight and let me know. And because I kind of keep you up to date on things that you can be involved in and things that are coming up. And please, 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 if you're in Lake Travis ISD, come to the board meeting Wednesday night, this week, Wednesday night. I usually get there around 5:15. It doesn't start till 6, but the earlier you get there, you can kind of pick your chair and, I don't know, it's strategy.
Do you have the agenda?
I don't have, they don't post the agenda until 24 hours before the meeting.
But
So,
you're gonna publish it.
I will send it out. It might be posted already, but I probably not till tomorrow. Anybody have any questions?
There's no,
What's your website again?
Ourtakeback.com. Ourtakeback.com.
We have
Anything
some
else?
pocket constitutions that have the our take back in there, so if someone wants to grab one of those, so grab one for your neighbor.
Okay?
Also, if anybody feels like tithing, we get this place for free.
There's a box at the door if you want to drop in a few bucks and help them pay for their electricity and AC. Let me pray real quick. Lord, we love you so much, and we thank you for this space, and we thank you for James White. We pray that you would give him courage and boldness. We pray, Lord, that we communicated our frustrations, and that he would take those back, Lord, and that he would communicate those to the other legislators, and that our justice would not continue to be delayed. Lord, we pray that you would protect our borders. We pray that you would protect our children. And Lord, we pray that you would protect our freedoms and our republic, God. Help us all engage and get involved and do our part, Lord, and not just be talkers, but be doers. Lord, we love you. We ask all these things in your son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Okay. Wow. Oh, I didn't watch it yet, but I didn't know that. I missed it. I love it for sure.